All right, so we're starting with section 3. And we're going to talk about inequalities. So first, let's talk about inequalities in terms of algebra. First of all, we have the comparison property, which basically says that you can compare two numbers. Okay? You can say that one is less than the other, they're equal to each other, or one is greater than the other. We've been doing this since the day we were born, right? Now, the transitive property says this. Suppose you have three numbers, A, B, and C. And you know that A is less than B, and B is less than C. Then what do you know about A and C? A is less than C. Okay? Similarly, if A is greater than B and B is then greater than C, then A is greater than C. Okay? Now, we also have addition and subtraction properties for comparisons, for inequalities. You remember what the addition property of equality said? How did we apply the addition property of equality? That's when you do what?
A plus B and B plus C.
Right. Well, it's when you do what to both sides of an equation? It's when you add the same thing to both sides of an equation. That's the addition property. Or if you subtract or multiply or divide the same number to both sides of an equation. Well, now we're going to do it using inequalities, okay? Addition and subtraction properties for inequalities. So basically this says, if you have the inequality A is less than B, then you can add a number to both sides and the inequality doesn't change. So you can add C here, you can add C here, or you can subtract C and the inequality doesn't change. Okay? So similarly, if you have this inequality, A is greater than B, then we can add the same number to both sides and we can say, okay, A plus C is greater than what? B plus C. Okay? Or A minus C is greater than B minus C. That's the subtraction property. And it's the exact same thing with multiplication and division. So look at this case. If C is greater than 0, what does that mean C is greater than 0? C is positive, right? So if C is positive, now you have A is less than B, then if you multiply both sides by C, you get the same inequality. So the inequality stays the same. A times C is less than B times C. And if you divide, A over C is less than B over C. So you can divide both sides by C. Or, if A is greater than B, let's multiply both sides by C. You get the same thing. So basically what happens? C is positive, and here the sign stays the same. Okay, now, what about the case when C is negative? What happens to an inequality when you multiply by a negative number? The sign will switch, right? So if C is less than 0, meaning it's negative, then if A is less than B, and if you do A times C and B times C, what will happen to the sign? They will switch. So A over C is greater than B over C. And here, A over C is less, A times C is less than B times C. A over C is less than B over C. So the sign will switch. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about another theorem, a brand new theorem this time. You guys remember what an exterior angle was? Okay. What does the measure of angle 4 equal to? Right, measure of angle 4 is equal to measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2. Therefore, if you're adding two things in order to create angle 4, how do the measures of angle 4 and angle 1 compare? Which one would you say it's bigger? 4 must be bigger than 1, right? Because you have to take 1, add something to it in order to get 4. And how about 4 and 2? Same thing, right? So measure of angle 4 is greater than measure of angle 1. Measure of angle 4 is greater than measure of angle 2. So if an angle is an exterior angle of a triangle, then its measure is greater than the measure of either of its corresponding remote interior angles. Okay? Pretty much common sense, but requires proof nonetheless, but we're not going to prove it. Okay? You can do it over, Thanksgiving. Okay, so use the exterior inequality theorem to list all the angles that satisfy the stated condition. So which of the angles here measures less than 8? Here's angle 8. If you look at this triangle, it's an exterior angle, so 8 is greater than 4 and 6. Therefore, angle 6 and angle 4 are less than angle 8. But what other angles? Not necessarily. What if you, okay, so we took that triangle, right? What if we take this triangle now? 2 and 7, okay? All right, so what about the other one? Measures greater than, so now it has to measure greater than angle 2, okay? Angle 8, so now what we need to look for, an exterior angle. Okay, so angle 8 is 1. What else? What if I take the small what if I take the angle 1? If you take angle 1, angle 2 isn't the remote interior angle. Angle 4. Okay? So you want this to be a remote interior angle. Okay. So look at this one. Lots of times, triangles are not equilateral. That means some sides are bigger, some sides are smaller. It turns out, if one side of a triangle is longer than the other side, then the angle opposite the longer side has a greater measure. Okay? So suppose here, this is the largest side. Okay? And suppose this is the smallest side. That makes this the medium side. Right? Now, which one is the angle opposite to the largest side? C. The quick way to do it, you can obviously look, but also if this is side AB, the letter that you didn't use is the opposite side, C. Opposite angle, C. Okay? So that means that this is the largest angle. Which one is the medium angle then? Angle B. And the smallest angle, this one. Okay? So the one opposite to the smallest side is the smallest angle and vice versa. So if AB is greater than AC, then which angle would be greater than which other angle? Here. Measure of angle C is greater than measure of angle B. Okay? And here, if AB is greater than BC, then measure of angle C is greater than measure of angle A, okay? If we're using BC, then A is the opposite angle. All right, so this theorem now is the converse. So what would the converse say? If one angle is larger than another angle, then the side opposite to it is larger than the side opposite to that one. So if measure of angle C is greater than A, if C is greater than A, then what do we know about the sides? What side is opposite to C? AB is greater than BC. Okay? So if you're using angle A, the side opposite is the other two letters, BC. What about for the other one? Measure of angle C is greater than B. That means AB is greater than AC. Okay? All right. So here, between, that must be new. Okay, so we're going to try to put 1, 2, and 4 in order. Angle 1, angle 2, and angle 4. Which angle would be the greatest here? 2. Why? Because it's an exterior angle. What about between 2, 5, and 3? 3. Again, because it's an exterior angle. What about with all of them? 3, because that's like the... Well, okay, so here's why. Sorry. 2 is greater than 1, right? 2 is greater than 1. 3 is greater than 2. So by the transitive property, 3 is greater than 1 and 2. Okay? All right. Let's determine the relationship here. Okay, I have angle WXY, which is this one, and XYW, which is this one. Which one is bigger? Which one does angle WXY face? It faces a side of 14. What about this one? It faces a side of 12. Therefore, the first one is bigger. Okay? Let's see about the next one. XZY is this one. And we have that it faces a side of 15. XYZ is this one. It faces a side of 18. Therefore, this is bigger. So XZY is smaller. All right, so next we have WYX and XWY. Okay, so which one does XYW face? This one. 12. And the next one? 15. So it's going to be that way. All right? Okay, so how about these? LM and LP. Side LM faces an angle that's how big? 59. Side LP faces an angle that's 83 degrees. So LM is less. Okay. All right, so MP is this one. It's either 38 or 79. However, where is MN? MN is in this triangle, right? So you want to work with that triangle. You want to work with the triangle that both are in. So here for MP, we're going to take 79. And what are we going to take for the other one? MN, 44. Okay, MN and MP. MN faces a side of 44. NP faces what? 57. So 57 wins. What about the other one? MP and LP. So LP faces a side of 83. And what about MP? 38. Okay? All right, lastly, find the value of N. List the sides of PQR in order to form the shortest, from the shortest to the longest. So here we are. This is M PQR. Measure of angle P is 12N minus 9 and Q and R. So what are we going to do with all of these? Add them up, set them equal to 180. So 12N minus 9 plus 62 minus 3N plus 16N plus 2 all equals 180. 25N is 125. N is equal to 5. So if N is equal to 5, how big is measure of angle P? 51. What about Q? 62 minus 15, 47. What about R? Anybody? 82. All right, and the sides from shortest to longest, which would be the shortest? PR. Segment PR, then what's next? QR. Then PQ. Okay? That's it. So this homework will be due tomorrow. All this is on haiku.